All right, so hi everyone. Thank you for coming to listen to the panel on building a secure ecosystem for Node.js. So over the last year, the security working group has been working on building trust and safer ecosystem through several initiatives that we'll probably talk today a little bit about. And today in the panel, we want to touch on building like security mindset, developer awareness to security topics through educational resources. So for that, we have in the panel 3 figures whom are very passionate and affiliated with security and the Node.js ecosystem. So I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves.
So hi everyone, I'm Vladimir. I've been part of the security working group for 2 years now, basically since the beginning of it. And I work full-time on Node security at a really cool company named Screen. So if you've got Node application in production, you want to talk to me, please do.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Evans. I'm a content manager for LinkedIn Learning and lynda.com. I oversee our back-end web developer video training library. And so basically my job is to figure out what Node.js developers need to know to stay technically current and up to speed and publish video training on those topics.
Hi, I'm Michael Dawson, IBM's community lead for Node.js. I'm quite active across the projects, but involved in the security working group because that's something that we think is very important to our customers. My involvement's mostly been on helping on the core side to help document some of our processes, set us up as a CNA, and do some things along those lines.
Thank you. As for myself, my name is Liran Tal. I'm a member of the security working group and an engineering manager at Nielsen. So to start off, Vladimir, can you give us a short overview of what is the security working group doing, some of its key achievements or initiative that it's been doing in the last year?
So the working group has been extremely busy last year. We've created 2 HackerOne programs, 2 bug bounties programs, one handling security reports for everything on NPM, meaning that if you find a vulnerability in an NPM module, you should report that to us, and we will handle we will help the maintainers fix it and ensure that it's disclosed safely. Also, we manage an HackerOne program for Node Core itself, meaning that there is a bug bounty with actual money provided by the internet bug bounty. So if you find vulnerabilities in Node Core itself, that's also to a HackerOne program that you will report that. And we will maybe give you a bounty if that's eligible to that. So that's the 2 main topics we've been going through this year. I hope we can go again, through other topics like evangelisms in the future.
Mm-hmm. Right, and we've seen a lot of adoption around Node.js applications. So it's been like recently, like in the recent years, it's been adopted very heavily through small startups and big enterprises. I personally think that a lot of that is related to it's like a gentle learning curve. It's easy to pick up, start right away, hack your product and stuff like that. But a lot of that is, at the end of the day, doesn't mean that your end product or end result is secure, right? Like that's the challenge there. So what I want to ask is, how and what should we be doing to make sure that developers are building, a safe Node.js applications? Stephanie?
Sure, so we all know that one of the great things about Node is that it's extensible, there's a lot of different ways of doing things, and we've got NPM, we've got this massive resource of packages, but that can also present some security vulnerabilities. There's lots of different ways of doing things, a lot of different ways of introducing security vulnerabilities, and you've got this massive repo of packages that you're bringing into your application. So there's certainly no glib or easy or one-size-fits-all answers, but for me, I think it boils down to 3 main things, and the first one's super easy, and that is, just changing the way we develop applications and treating security first as the mindset rather than it coming at the end. It's just a small ask, we just all do that. But related, I think something that we really can shift fairly easily is moving away from treating security as this advanced topic that only super experienced developers can and should be learning about, and start shifting that earlier in a developer's learning journey. I get it, we don't want to overwhelm these novice Node.js developers who are just getting started and discourage them from building anything because they're overwhelmed by the amount of attacks that their application can come under. But we certainly can think of how to introduce basic gentle security awareness into their learning journey earlier. And that moves into my third point, which is that we need the right resources in the right place at the right time. We can't treat security as this advanced topic that you find on your own separately if you happen to think about it. As educators, as docs writers, as mentors, we need to be thinking about where this developer is in their learning journey, what they don't even know that they don't know, and start surfacing that awareness to them and providing skill level appropriate training right where it is. And I'll give you one really brief example. When we recently redid our Learning NPM course, it's for real beginners with NPM, we introduced a little security training into that to make sure that that was getting in front of people as they were starting with NPM. When I have instructors build courses on building RESTful APIs, and I have a separate course on securing that RESTful API, a lot less people watch it than when I put that training in the course and make that effort to introduce the security training right there while they're learning to build that API and do it securely.
As part of like the main development workflow. Like, it's not something on the side. It's not just like you test it afterward, you learn how to test. It's part of the development process. It's integrated.
That's exactly right. Like it's integrated in the software development lifecycle, and it's integrated in the training and the docs that go along with that.
Yeah, security should not be an inconvenience, because at the end of the day, developers want one thing: they want to ship their code, and there is some things that need to be done to ship safer apps, because there is something that's not known by developer. And I really like what you said when you say you don't know what you don't know. I mean, you don't know what is SQL injection. I remember someone telling me they only exist in PHP, for instance. And you don't know what you don't know. And we should act upon that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that's probably something that, we should look at the documentation within the project and think, where can we not necessarily expand the doc, but add a few more references to get people thinking about, for example, SQL injection. Is there any discussion of that in the HTTP section where you're learning about how to use the tool that might let you introduce vulnerabilities? So maybe we can just, start to think about where are some of the points we can sort of share that information or get people thinking about it up front, maybe just as a further reading kind of thing. But definitely seems like something that would help sort of broaden the knowledge base of those kinds of things.
Yep, this actually reminds me of something that, like as part of the triage team, like for the security working group, and you're bringing the reference point of view, sometimes we get reports that are, they're informative, but not really, exploiting some stuff. So what we end up doing, as part of this like education process and awareness is, we're saying this is not really a vulnerability in the package, but, maybe just update the package README on the repo to say like, this is a security disclaimer, watch out, you should sanitize your strings, or, do this and that. So it kind of, it's like a feedback loop that wraps together.
I guess really, what I thought of as you were saying that is like clarify the expectations. It's like if you use it in this way, there isn't, there's no guarantees that you won't have these kinds of problems, right? And so be aware of that and be thinking about that so people have the right expectations and take care of it when they're actually using the APIs and tools and stuff.
And at the same time, there's a major issue with that a lot of resources, not handled by the foundation, but handled by third party and blog posts, showcase bad practices. If you just check authentication tutorial for Node.js, half of them showcase bad practices, don't hash passwords with outdated hashing functions. And maybe it should be time for everyone to take a step back and try to decide what's valuable learning material. Maybe as a foundation, we have a duty of starting to publish guides or part of the API about what the risks are when you use that. But the danger is, and that's something you said, we don't want to I'm never able to say that word. We don't want people to be scared of that. We don't want to prevent people from achieving their potential because they are scared of moving forward. So that's a difficult balance to attend.
I totally agree. So if someone wanted to start and learn more about, information security, application security, and getting more involved into a security kind of mindset, and just as you're a full stack developer, you maybe have skills in, front end, in design, in CSS and stuff like that. So how could you extend, and build, like fill that gap that you have around security? Like what would be some good ways to do that?
Well, it's funny. As I was doing some research, I think I was looking through Reddit, and someone had built a simple read-only Node API and was like, "I'm nervous. I don't want to deploy this thing. It's gonna get attacked." And And some people provide some reassurance, and then one person was like, "OWASP top 10, done, mic drop." Like just like that was going to solve all problems, right? And so I am going to tell you, go read the OWASP top 10 and familiarize yourself with it. I'm not going to pretend like that's not important, but it is really hard to read that and suddenly magically be endowed with this knowledge of how to actually secure your Node application. And so you kind of get it in theory. And so you want to look for resources that do some of that extrapolation for you for how this looks in a Node-specific context, right? Like the NodeGoat project, I think is awesome for this. And Liren is actually a big contributor to it. It's such a valuable contribution to our ecosystem where it takes those OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities and security risks and helps you understand how this plays out in a Node-specific context and in that application, and lets you play with these vulnerabilities and get some hands-on practice so that you're much more equipped to build more secure applications and feel less insecure about what you're unaware of. Kind of speaking to what Vlad was saying earlier about all the various resources out there, as developers, you go to the docs, you go to Stack Overflow, and you go out off into the wilds of the internet, right? And so there's a lot of copy and paste coding that can go on and kind of just trying to solve the problem in front of you. And we all know this, but it bears repeating. Really consider the source. Like, has this come out from someone from the security working group? Has it come out from a vendor who's there to help protect you, like Screen? Like Screen puts out great resources. Snyk puts out great resources. So consider if it's being vetted, approved, peer-reviewed. Free content is great, and there is amazing free quality content out there. But it's also sitting alongside insecure things that are going to introduce SQL injections and cross-site scripting attacks and things like that into your code. So always take a moment to kind of go back to those primary sources. Think about if it's being vetted. Think about if this is truly a subject matter expert who hopefully has been peer-reviewed or QA'd in some way.
I'm just thinking that, actually a common theme across a number of the working groups in the project have been like trying to document best practices. And I think that fits in really well to what you were just saying is if we could, within the security working group repo, have a good starting point of resources that, people have looked at and recommend as very good starting points. That would be a really good thing to do. I think we've probably talked about doing that. It all comes down to having enough time to make it happen. So if there's anybody in the audience who's kind of has a good set and is passionate about doing something like that, wants to get involved in the project, that would be a really great way as, a starting contribution.
Yeah, and related, the Node documentation website is going through a big redesign right now, and part of that is soliciting content to go in it to make it really useful as a primary landing place for Node.js developers. So if you do have security knowledge or you do want to contribute in some way, that's a place to really help us level up as an ecosystem by providing that documentation that has those best practices in it.
Obviously, I mean, a lot of topics in the working group need more workforce. And that's one of the most important, in my opinion. I think everyone is doing a call to action right now to please join us, please give us your help and your editorial help here, because you will be benefiting the greater JavaScript ecosystem by doing that.
Right, and Vladimir, you're going to show a live SQL injection, right, in like 2 talks from now?
Yeah. So that's the security afternoon in this room, because just after that there's another security talk, and after that there's a security talk by me, and I will showcase SQL injection, but more excitingly, NoSQL injections. Spoiler alert. So
if you're interested to learn more, just stay tuned. All right, so we're talking a lot about security here and like awareness, and I feel that whether you're a Node developer or just generic JavaScript developer where you're doing IoT or front-end or whatever, you've probably heard about the security incidents that have been going on recently, right? Like, I don't know, by a show of hand, tell me if you've heard about the ESLint incident, right? Have you heard about main PM typo squatting attacks? Right, some of you at least, right? So people are hearing about that, and I feel that it's also overwhelming in the fact that it's probably also like maybe scaring people away, and like is it safe ground to build applications on? And this is where I want to ask, like, what measures can we provide to instill some confidence in users that we are building a secure ecosystem for Node and JavaScript as well?
Yeah, and I think we were talking about maybe avoiding having some security training up front because we might make people insecure. But the fact is, people are feeling really insecure. We know that security is an issue, and I think a lot of developers don't feel equipped to overcome it. NodeSource released this really interesting survey. It had about 1,600 responses, and a couple of things really stood out to me in that. One is about 87% of respondents were feeling insecure about their own code, versus 77% who are feeling insecure about the code they bring in from the open source community. And Vlad said this before, it's your own code that's going to get you into more trouble than the code you bring in, right? And what also stood out in that survey was this perception that there wasn't enough resourcing around security training, security documentation, there seems like there's 7 different opinions, and how do I actually make my app secure? And so to me, that speaks to the need for documentation and training and bringing it in earlier so we're feeling more secure and we are adopting these security best practices. But that's also not to say that it's all on the individual developer to be combing through their code and looking for cross-site scripting attacks and avoiding SQL injection. You need that understanding so that the tooling and the frameworks and the libraries that should be there to support you and you should be adopting, you don't accidentally circumvent that or use it inconsistently because you don't have that understanding. So it's very much training coupled with the right tooling.
Makes sense. I mean, all these recent vulnerabilities harmed a bit Node.js reputation. I mean, I know a lot of Fortune 500 companies, mostly big banks, where you've got, when you want to deploy in production, you have to go through a panel of architects who are Java or PHP aficionados, and they will look at you in the eye and say, Node is JavaScript, it's insecure by design. And just because we are transparent with what happens, because let's not hide it, other ecosystems have the same amount in proportion of security issues as us. But we have made the choice of being extremely transparent on that, and communicate, because we want people to react quickly on that, which means when there is a vulnerability in an important package, we don't publish a blog post. We publish 1,000 blog posts, we contact everyone we know, we've got a chain of retreat. There's a huge solidarity in the JavaScript ecosystem to fix things quickly. That does not exist that much in all other ecosystems. And that's why people believe that our issues are huge and happen a lot, because we give a lot of media attention, because we want to make it safe. And maybe we should communicate better on why we do it, why we do that, how we do that, because we care more than the other, I think.
It's fighting words.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think what we're talking about here to a large extent is that we have this really great module ecosystem like that Duran mentioned in the introduction, but it also offers us some challenges, right? It's hard to choose from that 600, 700,000, I don't know, is it 800,000 modules? And so, in addition and maybe as part of some of the education is we need to start to help to provide ways that people can look at modules and understand whether those modules might be suitable for them. And that, that applies for lots of different qualities of service. At IBM, we're working on Module Insights, which shows you, are the unit tests running and passing? Can you get commercial support? And I think security needs to be bundled into that as well, so that there's a way to look at the module and say, they follow a responsible disclosure practice, right? And that's one metric that will help people be comfortable that, that's probably a good module to choose. And so whatever else we can work on in terms of helping to sort of let module owners show that they're following best practices, to follow those best practices, and make it an easier choice for those enterprises to use them versus having to say, oh, I have to review all the code and make sure myself, because that's a source of friction that slows people down.
Yeah, and I think, if I can add to that, I think that probably the act of the foundation to just build, the security working group just by itself is voiced out, by having that as something that is very important to just, to do for the ecosystem and instill this confidence for users, right?
Yeah, and I guess I'll just add, a lot of the good work that you two are doing in terms of helping to triage vulnerabilities. I think that's one of the things that we can and are doing to be able to try and provide more confidence, because people now know that there is a place that vulnerabilities can be reported, that they'll be treated seriously, there'll be CVs assigned. And so it's that kind of thing we need to continue to look for other opportunities and expand on as a project to sort of help out on that front.
So we're going to close out soon, and I want to ask you, what keeps you up at night? What would make you sleep better? Vladimir, do you want to start?
So I'm not sure it will make me sleep better because with the jet lag
You
it's
don't sleep.
impossible. But something that will make me sleep at night will be okay. So there is a major merger coming probably between the foundations.
What do you mean? What merger?
The merger between the node and jet. Where have you been for the last week?
I've been hearing talks all day,
I haven't. So, I mean, in one of the potential organizations, there is this idea of a common JS part. And I think all the bricks come together if we, and that's only my opinion about what would happen. I'm not engaging anyone. If we had a cross-project security team that would be helping the project to create security practice, not imposing anything, but like, hey, you want to focus on building ESLint, let us help you securing it and handling the security part. And we would have all this set of projects that we would have, hey, a stamp, security practice by the merged foundation. And that will create enterprise trust because we will be having a real security team with professional support in front of our users.
Yeah, I think, coming from the educational perspective, what keeps me up at night is the fact that we treat security as this sort of afterthought in the software development lifecycle, and that we kind of treat it as an afterthought in our training resources. And so I would definitely sleep better at night if in a year's time we have a lot more quality resources out there that are well organized and are helping developers in the context of when they're trying to solve a problem, they're trying to solve it securely. And I think if everyone turned on two-factor authentication for their NPM account, that'd be super cool too.
Yep. It's very important.
Yeah, certainly for me, a lot of the concerns are about the software that we're installing. It's great to leverage all the stuff that's out there, but the more tools and sort of ways that we can come to a shared level of trust. If I didn't have to sort of potentially have to look at all of the code in the modules that I'm going to install, or have to go through, convince my internal organization that those are all okay by going through hoops on myself. But there was some way in which, I could trust, for example, Screen or some other company to have done some of that for me, and to sort of automatically have that apply in my production environments. That would actually let me sleep a lot better, because then I wouldn't have to worry about, it's just too easy to make a mistake. So anything that you could sort of enforce automatically would make me sleep a lot better than I think many people do today.
Spoiler alert, you want to try Screen. Sorry about that.
Right. I think it's for me. It's a lot about not doing security just one time, and it's secured, and then you continue to do your job and development, and you forget about the security part. It's a lot like doing testing or performance or anything else. It's something that you continually do. It's not like you secured something, you developed, you pushed, and then there's nothing else. Like it's already secured. It's something that has to go all the time. And this is where I would sleep better at night if I would know that. We're still, pushing hard on the security agenda to make sure that, we're not just, it's not like a bank that we have tried to instill some processes, but we're actually supporting the community, for a very, continual time. So to close out, Vladimir, do you want to, or Michael, do you want to say a little bit more about the security working group and just invite
Sure.
people to join?
Absolutely. I'll start, and then Vladimir can join in as well. But, we absolutely would love to see more people come out and join the security working group. There's actually some really good and interesting discussions on the more forward-looking front. So in terms of looking at, can we implement new things like policies in Node, core itself.
And that's been ongoing already, right?
Exactly. So there's a bunch of really interesting conversations you could get involved. I don't know what if the right answer is yes or no or whatever, but they're really good conversations to have more people involved in and participating with proof of concepts and so forth. There's the day-to-day work, as we were already talking about, in terms of improving the educational resources. That's something where across the project we have work to do in terms of having more and better documentation. And so that's a great place to get involved. In terms of the triaging third-party vulnerabilities, there's quite a lot of work there. So if that's something you're interested in. Right. And then even on, in terms of the way Node Core does its security, we've tried to, over the last couple of years, document the processes. And if we have people who have suggestions on how to make that better, we're always looking for input along those lines too.
And we are also happy to welcome any external idea. I dream to have someone fuzzing Node-Core monthly or weekly, or doing other security-related evaluation or audit on Node-Core or the ecosystem. So if you've got the will of doing that, you don't really need the skills. We can do that together, learn that together. Please join us. We really need your help.
Yeah. Do you want to say a few words maybe about the future of the security working group, like the API and stuff that we've been working on?
Oh, so it's all fresh from this morning.
Yeah.
So
We're discussing it in a few agendas.
if you want to know if a module is vulnerable based on the content of the Node Security Working Group API database, there is a beta API that has been gone to prod on Heroku 3 hours ago. And it used Worker thread. So I'm really proud of that.
Experimental.
I've got that in production. Yeah. So that's the kind of project we are working. The security advisory is migrating to their own repository.
Right.
So if you want to help with that, I would really need help.
I'll just add, like there was a question that said, hey, do we already have a vulnerability, have an ID assigned to this vulnerability or CVE? And I went to look at the database and it was like, I don't want to open up every single one of these, which is what I had to do before. So it's really great that there'll be an API you can easily search and find, things that you're looking for.
That will even be a search API. So if you want to find an XSS, just type XSS.
In the future. All right, so anything else you want to add? Any of you? All right, so
Come out, join us.
yeah. Just talk to us if you have some questions. We're all here, whether about education, security, or just a working group. We'll be really happy to answer anything that you want to ask us. So that's it.
Thanks a lot. And stay for Adam's talk. It will be awesome.